The torrent of emotions that you will go through as the upheaval of past behaviors start to reveal themselves on the semen retention journey will be truly tremendous to your overall spiritual health and well-being. But to reorganize your thought algorithms and to reorganize your thought structures, that is going to be the key factor in really moving beyond whatever these past behaviors are. And so with that being said, I want to welcome everybody to another Semen Retention Sunday episode here on the Regal Change channel, because I'm now doing this on X and YouTube and etc. So I want to welcome everybody that's watching. Now, with that being said, the topic for today is how spiritual maturation will occur on semen retention. So what you'll realize when you get far enough into this journey is that it's not about being financially or physically or emotionally well necessarily, even though it is, but it isn't necessarily. What's really important is for you to grow and mature in your soul and your spirit. And by natural repercussions, you're going to naturally, the more you elevate in your soul and mature in your soul and your spirit, you're going to naturally mature in your other areas of life, the financial, physical, and emotional. And it's almost like the universe will put you on a path to where there's a specific regard and a reverence that you'll have toward all of life, and specifically yourself, because what you're doing is you're putting yourself at your own mental focal point of origin again. You're making yourself not necessarily the focus of your life in a selfish way that requires you to be prideful or vain, but you are being selfish in the way that you are being more of yourself. You are being as if you are your full self all the time. That is really what it means to be self-ish, right? It's kind of an ishness, okay? There's something about you that is very unique. Everybody has this kind of quality about them, and so it's very important that you discover those for yourself. But to discover those takes you really looking inside yourself. What does that even mean, though, right? When people say, well, you got to look inside yourself, like, it's so cliche to say that, right? But what exactly does that mean? Well, it means, are you valuing the external more than your internal principles? Are you valuing the external things more than the internal principles of your life? Because if you are, then there's a high likelihood that you don't even have a remotely close understanding to what it means to really look inside yourself. To look inside yourself requires you to have humility. It requires you to have a sense of grace and understanding about your own weaknesses or your own potential downfalls, and to accept those for what they are, not be adverse to those things. Because the trajectory in which you're going to be operating on this semen retention journey is you're going to be confronting a lot of different kinds of obstacles that you might not even have known were obstacles to begin with. You might not even have understood that there's a specific kind of obstacle that you've been trying to overcome that relates to a certain thing that you know about, but it's not necessarily that it is the case until it's revealed to you. And this is what I mean by reprogramming your thought algorithms, because you might have some thought algorithms that you think, like, you're sure that, oh, that's not a big deal, I'm okay with that, I can handle that, or that's not really something I'm worried about right now. Well, maybe it is. Now, I'm not trying to cast doubt into you, and I'm not trying to cast any kind of confusion, but it is the case that to really understand the depths of what you're dealing with, because semen retention of itself is a psychological juggernaut. Okay, you are confronting the second most fundamental principle to your biology, which is the procreation principle. And to transcend that, the next step after that is self-mastery. Okay, so realize what you're dealing with here. Realize that, and give yourself some grace and give yourself some understanding and some compassion, because this is not going to be something that is just super easy, especially for us men, where we're man, we can just feel the gust of the wind a certain way, and we'll start to think about certain things, right? And at least that's how it was in the past for me. I can only speak for myself, but I don't really think about that kind of stuff anymore. Like the images, the sexual images, they don't come to mind really at all anymore. And it's not that I'm incapable of being a sexual being, because I totally am, but it's not the most important priority for me. And it's not that I cannot express sexual interest in a woman if I want her. Like, of course I'm going to express sexual interest, but I'm not going to be creepy about it. I'm not going to be trying to force anything. I'm going to say, this is what I like about it, and this is what I want to see from you, and go from there. I mean, it's really not rocket science. It's really not complicated. And a lot of men get super up in arms about trying to be with women right now. And it's like, do you know who you are? Like, how do you expect to love somebody else and to know somebody else if you really don't know who you are, and you really don't know how to be with yourself? I've said this, I don't know who I said this to actually recently, but I said something along the lines of, those that cannot be solitary in solitude and be comfortable in solitude are the most untrustworthy kinds of people. Why? Because those people can't even trust themselves. They can't even trust themselves. So how are you supposed to trust somebody that can't even be alone by themselves and trust themselves enough to live their own life and to be a part of their own being? Because that's what this journey really is about. It's about maturation, and it's about closeness to God. And one thing that I've noticed particularly about mature souls are that they do not trespass on the sovereignty of others. They do not trespass on the person's creativity. They do not trespass on the person's ability to be who they are meant to be, their authenticity, etc. And so I oftentimes, for a long time, I wanted to remain neutral. And even to this day, I try to be neutral when it comes to any kind of drastic political or socioeconomic or whatever kind of topic. But when it comes to spirituality, and when it comes to branching off of that, I'm beginning to realize that a mature soul cannot really be neutral. A mature soul cannot necessarily be involved with neutrality in the way that people will think so. Now, what do I mean by this? I mean that neutrality implies that there's no positivity or no negativity, right? But if you don't have the positivity and you don't have the negativity, how do you expect to live a life of grace and a life of prosperity and a life of abundance? Well, realizing that life is not necessarily about prosperity or abundance, even though those are great things and God will give those to you as He wants to and how He sees you deserve it, it's not necessarily the case that that's what life is meant to be. Life is more about the maturation of the deepest parts of ourselves to learn and to grow as a soul. And why does this happen on semen retention? Well, because conquering lust is just the beginning. Conquering lust is just the basic form of understanding of where you can be in this life. Conquering lust is, although it is a huge accomplishment, do not get me wrong, it is only the beginning. So if you get to like 2 weeks on semen retention, I found that the people that can go at least 2 weeks are usually the ones that can end up being like the godlike savages. And they're the ones that can be really going beyond themselves. And because they have the discipline. And if you can be disciplined in that, like your second most fundamental form of biological impulse, then you'll be able to, which is the first, by the way, is self-preservation. And if you can really go beyond that, and you can even surpass the desire for self-preservation, not necessarily that because you want to preserve yourself because you're afraid, but to preserve yourself with proper and healthy boundaries, and you can be able to walk away from something or someone that is trespassing on that sovereignty, on that boundary that you've laid, well then you can really do a lot. You can do almost anything. And that's really something to think about. So with all that being said, I hope this message was useful and insightful. We're going to keep it sweet and to the point today for this Semen Retention Sunday episode. And I do want to thank everybody that has been moving over to X, as well as any other platform that I have for social media. I do want to get more active on these other platforms because I'm slowly recognizing that to put all your eggs in one basket is asinine, and it's really not the wisest thing to do. Even though YouTube is definitely my favorite as far as the way that it works, I'm branching out, and so be on the lookout for that. If you're interested in joining a godly community where we have like-minded individuals that follow Christ, that want to grow closer to God, that want to learn more about how to be following Christ in today's world of temptations everywhere, this is going to be the place for you, is Regal Change Academy. And you can join the free Discord if you're not interested in paying for the paid community, or you can join the paid community for Regal Change Academy, where you're going to get a bunch more resources, and you'll be able to attend weekly group calls as well. So with all that being said, I hope this message was useful and insightful. And until next time, peace be with you.